Well, my word, this car likes to put up a fight. But this is out, so yeah, this is what it looks like. What a mess. Okay, cool. So the stack is out. This is my replacement box. So the fault codes are coming from the motor controller in there. We don't know if the motor has a fault, if the controller has a fault. And this is a 2020 car, so I've got this and what Renault call the PEC from a 2022 car. And I am planning to fit that whole box because we've got fault codes from a couple of different things inside there. They may be related, but that's probably going to be the easiest way to go. And this is the first time I've done this work on this variant, obviously because they're all under warranty as mentioned. So yeah, we need to get this box off. We need to kind of do some tests on the motor to determine if that's good or not and swap this box over. These are coded to the car, so you can't just stick it on. So we've got that to resolve as well. Yeah, we've got to swap them over fundamentally, test the motor, see if that's any good, if we've got any issues there, because that could have caused the issues inside the control box. And then get it refitted, get all that wiring back on. And then basically see if it will spin the motor, because it will not do at the moment. It will not drive. You just get electric motor failure. But the faults are coming from the motor controller. So yeah, I'm going to do that and then we'll see what happens next. All right, cool. Cheers. Okay, well this is really not what I wanted to see. So just undoing this cover panel on the control box, and there's coolant dripping out the bottom of it, which there shouldn't be coolant in there. But the lowest component is the motor controller. I mean, the coolant obviously does come out of here. So that's been going down, but it, you know, there's been a bit dripping out of there, but it certainly shouldn't end up in here. So there's significant amounts of coolant coming out of there. So I'm gonna get this cover panel off and see what's going on, but that is, yeah, not ideal in any stretch of the imagination. Okay, yes, that could change things. Right, let's see. Okay, so I think we can answer the question of what actually broke this car. And it looks like it is likely to be a result of the accident. It's hard to 100% confirm, but basically, yeah, so there was coolant collecting. So this is like the cover panel for the motor wires on the bottom of this side box of the motor stack, bottom of what Renault call the PEC. And you can see there's been coolant collecting in here. I wondered whether, because of the coolant that's been dripping out here, because I didn't cover that, whether that's just been dripping down and then a bit's just kind of collected underneath it. But no, that's significantly inside, isn't it? It's kind of congealed in there, you know, so that's been in there for a while. And then if we can actually see the motor wires, apologies, this is, yeah, not light down here is not ideal, but they actually had drips of coolant on those motor wires, which is obviously not ideal. The good thing is there's not a significant amount of coolant. It doesn't look like it's gone into the motor, because that would cause us a whole world of pain. Well, basically we have to get another motor if we can't dry it out, or it could have corroded it, that kind of thing. So just more work. It's not significantly damp kind of in here at the bottom, but yeah, this is the unit that's giving the fault codes, and that's the one that's got quite a bit of coolant around it. So presumably the coolant is coming from behind. So there's a water cooling jacket. You can see the in and out pipes on the side there, so it's all on that side, and yeah, it's sort of there and then around that side, and that's right where this component is. So yeah, it's really condensated in here. Don't know whether you can fully see that, it's kind of difficult, but yeah, there's a lot of condensation, as you'd imagine. Yeah, very damp in there. So yeah, so I think we know that's what's killed it. So coolant, so this is a water-cooled control box. It has a water cooling layer on the case, and then there are components. So like you can see, there's a coolant pipe here, and then there's a kind of layer here, and so that you know, the coolant runs in this layer to cool the components. So there's a couple of different components that are cooled, and coolant for whatever reason has ended up inside this control box, and the lowest component is this motor controller, and that's obviously connected to the motor, and that's the one that's got the internal fault. So not massively surprising, I suppose, if it gets coolant on it. So not tons and tons, but enough. So my plan was to swap this whole box I'm obviously definitely going to do that now. I know it's not had a lot leaking inside because it still had a significant amount of coolant in it. So one way or another, coolant has dripped in. So actually, if we get the end cover, so this is the cover panel, and it's aluminium, and you can see this has got, yeah, aluminium snow, and yeah, it's had condensation in it. Yeah, you can see the kind of crystallized, I don't know if that comes out too well. Oh, there we go, crystallized blobs of coolant. I mean, that shouldn't look like that. That should just be kind of bare metal inside. Yeah, so that's what killed it. Interesting. So it's obviously had a front end bump, so I reckon it's quite likely that that's actually damaged the coolant jacket, just the bump impact. It's hard to say because it's all under warranty, so we don't see a lot of these. Maybe they suffer with coolant, but I've never seen coolant leak inside one of these, and obviously this has had an accident. This is a different variant, but I don't think this box has changed, and the overall architecture of this power electronics hasn't changed. Some of these components have been upgraded, but internally there's no external sort of no architectural changes on this box, so it's unlikely that they've caused a drip coolant leak. There would probably be bulletins and that kind of thing. So yeah, interesting. So we're kind of hoping that there's not too much damage really, but yeah, we're going to swap this box. We are going to need some components because we've got to get around the fact that it's coded, so we're kind of hoping we've not got too many crusty circuit boards in here. But yeah, we can only carry on and see. And this is quite fascinating actually. There's some differences in the buzz bars here and how these are put together. Some of this is in a different orientation. On earlier ones, the connectors are for these are for further, they're lower down, and then these buzz bars are different, which is quite cool. But yeah, interesting. Right, well, I'll crack on and we'll see where we get to, but at least we know what killed it, and I think that's likely caused by the accident. Okay, catch you in a bit. Okay, so the control box is off the motor. You can see that there's water here. I don't think that's gone into the motor. I'm going to get this off and just double check that. What I really want to do is spin this motor as well, just to see what it sounds like, because you can have issues caused by the motor, but highly likely the motor isn't the cause, so just be nice to hear it spin before we go too much further. But yeah, I'll do some tests on here just to make sure that there's not an issue of coolant actually going inside. So we can do a high voltage insulation test just between these cables and the case, just to verify and take this shroud off as well, just to make sure it's dry inside. And you can see sort of in there coolant dripping off the bottom of the motor controller, which isn't ideal. So I haven't yet worked out exactly where that's coming from. Seems to be dry in there. Yeah, can't see anything in there. But yeah, given that this is the unit that's reporting the issues, that's not massively surprising. Oh, there's a little drip there, isn't there? Yeah, interesting. Little drip inside there. Just noticed that. Can't get that to focus, but anyway, you can hopefully see it. Yeah, drip down in there. There we go. Yes, that's interesting. So obviously that, it tells you the height of where it's coming from. Can't see anything in there. That's just dust on the top of there. Can't see anything in there. Interesting, this is all where the water cooling side is. So, yeah, hard to see down there. But yeah, so I'm going to strip this down just because it's fascinating to see. Plus, I obviously need to resolve the coding issue. But yeah, interesting. So we can see all that. And I'm hoping I'm going to be able to salvage enough of the parts that I need to swap the coding over to that box. But yeah, that is a 2022 and this is a 2020. They're the same variant, R135, but there can be compatibility issues even when you transfer the coding over, because parts do get updated over time. So we'll see what the part numbers on those are, but it's kind of going to be a case of putting it together and seeing what happens, because we've not done this before. But yeah, so that is interesting. So the water is obviously coming from above that point, but yeah, we need to get some of these out and see exactly what's happened. But yeah, possibly like a crack or something's moved from the bump. But yeah, okay, I'll strip this down. Right, I've got this stripped out. So the good news, let's put some light on, is that the moisture was just on the outside. So there's kind of a rubber seal in the middle of this plastic guard, and the moisture was just on the outside. Doesn't look like it's gone inside the motor, which is fantastic. So now if we get, this is the motor controller, so you can see it's covered in coolant. You can see the coolant has been dripping down the side. That's an inductor dripping down the side of there. Obviously this is all coolant that shouldn't be in here. There's some little bit to the left there, and it gets up as high as here. This is where the motor controller sits, and then there was a capacitor on top of it. So yeah, there's coolant all over there, and this is the, well, one of the units that's reporting, kind of most significant unit that's reporting failures on this car. And it's a non-drive, and that's the motor controller, so that all kind of makes sense. So the question is, where is this coolant coming from? And that is quite hard to work out. So we've got water cooling here and there, so sort of the whole of this back part and that side is all water cooled, but I can't see, I mean, yeah, let me know if you can see a crack or something. But yeah, can't see anything to show where it's actually coming in. I mean, I'm glad I've got a whole nother box, because obviously we're not going to reuse this one. And so the fascinating thing is, if we can't find a crack, then is this just a failure of this box, that it's weeping somewhere? It just seems such a coincidence. This is a 2020 car. It had a bump in March, and it broke down about 3 months later. So it's been on the road for sort of, 2.5 to 3 years, and then it's had this fault within a few months of the accident. Seems a little bit of a coincidence. Yeah, so I mean, if we look up the top, so, and I've not tipped this box up sort of purposely, so the coolant's only going to have been going downwards. I've just leaned it back to make things easier. So there's no coolant up here, so it's not coming from that high. So yeah, it's not significantly around there. Actually, there is a little bit just there, isn't there, where that hole is. And that is, I mean, that is into the water cooling layer. Yeah, can't see any in there. So yeah, what I am going to do is I'll take this box, I'll have another good look at it, see if I can see any cracks or anything, but there's nothing significant. I'll take this to a guy who's got sort of aircon pressure test equipment, and I'll get him to put it under pressure, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, just to prove this out. But as it stands, we've definitely found the fault. That motor controller's full of water. This coolant should definitely not be inside here, so that is the fault. Yeah, I will double check to see exactly where that's coming from, because that would be really interesting to know whether it's from the accident or whether this box is just weeping somewhere, maybe like in the bottom of that hole or something like that. Whether that's from the accident or not. Yeah, it's not cracked around there. But yeah, interesting. Okay, so that wasn't what I expected to find, but that's what it is. That's why we do these things. So yeah, I need to get this a couple of bits transferred over into there, so that the car will see the correct VIN, so that it thinks it's got the same components, and the coding will be happy, immobiliser, all that kind of stuff. Get this back together. I want to do some further tests on this motor to be sure we're happy with that, but obviously that's just kind of to double check while I'm here. We obviously know that that's the fault. But yeah, interesting, never seen that before. Yeah, so yeah, I need to get this transferred over and get it back together. And yeah, so next video should be with the car with the motor actually spinning, which will be nice. But obviously we've got to overcome some things before we get to that point, but we are getting somewhere. Cool, we found the fault. All right, cheers, catch you later.